Tonight we take a closer look at a profound and rapidly evolving shift in America's approach to gun rights, a transformation that's igniting passionate debate and dividing communities across the nation. The conversation around firearms is no longer confined to political circles. It's become a topic of everyday discussion, affecting families, neighborhoods, and the very fabric of American society. Currently, 7 states are poised to eliminate the long-standing permit requirement for carrying concealed firearms in public spaces. This significant move is expected to have far-reaching implications, not just for gun owners, but for law enforcement, local governments, and the general public. The debate over who should be allowed to carry a concealed weapon, and under what circumstances, has never been more intense. This new wave of constitutional carry legislation is actively reshaping the legal landscape. While some states are loosening restrictions and expanding gun rights, others are moving in the opposite direction, tightening regulations in response to concerns about public safety. The result is a patchwork of laws that vary dramatically from state to state, creating confusion and uncertainty for citizens and lawmakers alike. Supporters of these changes argue that the Second Amendment alone should guarantee the right to carry firearms without the need for additional permits or government oversight. They see these laws as a restoration of fundamental freedoms. On the other hand, critics warn that removing permit requirements could lead to increased risks, including more gun violence and challenges for law enforcement trying to keep communities safe. This debate cuts to the very core of American identity, forcing us to confront the delicate balance between personal freedom and collective responsibility. It's a conversation that touches on history, culture, and the values we hold most dear as a nation. As we explore this unfolding story, we'll hear directly from citizens on both sides of the issue: gun owners, activists, law enforcement, and everyday families. We'll examine the potential consequences for public safety, the economy, and the future of our political landscape. How will these changes affect daily life, and what do they mean for the next generation? This is more than just a legal battle. It's a defining moment for the nation's values, a test of how we interpret our rights and responsibilities in a changing world. The choices we make now will echo for generations to come, shaping the future of America and the freedoms we cherish. To understand today's debate, we need to look back at the evolution of gun laws in America. The Second Amendment, ratified in 1791, has long been debated, originally tied to militias, but now often seen as an individual right. In the 1800s, many states actually banned concealed weapons, associating them with criminal behavior. The 1980s and 90s saw a shall-issue permit laws spread, making it easier for law-abiding citizens to carry concealed firearms if they met certain criteria. This system balanced gun rights with state oversight, requiring background checks and training. Now, the push for constitutional carry argues that even these permits are an unnecessary barrier. Supporters believe if you can legally own a gun, you should be able to carry it, no permit required. This marks a return to a more individualistic interpretation of the right to bear arms. In 2026, 7 states, Wisconsin, North Carolina, South Carolina, Louisiana, Michigan, Nebraska, and Pennsylvania, are at the forefront of a growing movement to eliminate the need for concealed carry permits. These states are not just considering minor tweaks to existing laws. They are pushing for a fundamental shift in how Americans exercise their right to carry firearms in public. The debate is heating up in state capitals, with lawmakers, citizens, and advocacy groups all weighing in on what could become a defining issue for the decade. Republican lawmakers leading this charge argue that the current permit system places unnecessary obstacles in the path of law-abiding citizens. They believe that the Second Amendment, enshrined in the Constitution, should be the only requirement for carrying a concealed weapon. For them, the right to self-defense is fundamental, and any additional state-level restrictions are seen as infringements on personal liberty. Under the proposed laws, any adult who is not prohibited by federal law, such as convicted felons or those with certain mental health conditions, would be allowed to carry a concealed handgun in public spaces. This would effectively bypass the current state-level vetting, fingerprinting, and mandatory training that many states require. Supporters say this change would empower responsible citizens and streamline the process, making it easier for people to protect themselves and their families. Proponents emphasize that background checks for gun purchases would still be required at the point of sale, ensuring that dangerous individuals are kept from acquiring firearms. However, opponents warn that removing the permit process could result in more untrained or inexperienced individuals carrying guns in public, potentially increasing the risk of accidents or confrontations. They argue that mandatory training and vetting are essential for public safety. The debate has become especially intense, with law enforcement officials and advocacy groups voicing strong and sometimes opposing concerns about the potential impact on public safety. Police chiefs and sheriffs in some states have expressed worries about the challenges of identifying who is legally carrying, while gun rights organizations rally supporters to demand fewer restrictions. This push for permitless carry is part of a much larger decade-long trend. Before 2010, only 2 states allowed what's known as constitutional carry. Today, nearly 30 states have adopted similar laws, and the number continues to rise rapidly. The movement is reshaping the national landscape of gun rights and regulations. The rapid expansion of permitless carry laws reflects a strategic shift in the gun rights movement. The conversation is no longer just about whether people can carry firearms, but about how and under what conditions. Town halls and public forums are filled with passionate voices on both sides, debating the best path forward for their communities. The decisions made in these 7 states could set a powerful new national standard, influencing legislation and public opinion far beyond their borders. Lawmakers are aware that the eyes of the nation are on them as they cast their votes and shape the future of gun policy. With the stakes so high, citizens across the country are closely following the developments. News outlets provide constant updates, and public squares become gathering places for those eager to see how these historic decisions will unfold. Ultimately, the future of gun regulation in America may be decided in these very states, as lawmakers, citizens, and advocacy groups continue to debate. The outcome here could shape the nation's approach to gun rights for years to come. Supporters of permitless carry see it as a restoration of fundamental rights, believing that the ability to bear arms is a core part of American identity and liberty. For them, constitutional carry is not just a policy change, but a return to the original intent of the Founding Fathers, who saw self-defense as a natural right that should not be restricted by government bureaucracy. They argue that requiring permits, fees, and mandatory training is an unnecessary barrier and an infringement on the Second Amendment. These requirements, they say, turn a right into a privilege that can be denied or delayed by the state, undermining the very freedoms the Constitution was designed to protect. Lawmakers like Wisconsin's Chance Green say the current system punishes law-abiding citizens while criminals ignore the rules entirely. They point out that criminals, by definition, do not follow gun laws, so restrictions only impact those who are already inclined to obey the law. Supporters point to data from states with constitutional carry, claiming there has been no significant rise in violence. In fact, they argue that responsible citizens who are able to carry firearms legally can act as a deterrent to crime, making communities safer overall. They believe that when law-abiding people are empowered, criminals think twice before committing offenses. Advocates also highlight the financial burden of permits, which can disproportionately affect low-income individuals, often those most in need of self-defense. The costs of classes, application fees, and time off work can add up, making it difficult for some to exercise their rights. By removing these barriers, they say, the right to self-protection becomes accessible to all, not just the wealthy or those with extra time and resources. This, in their view, is a step toward a more just and equitable society, where everyone has the same opportunity to defend themselves and their loved ones. For supporters, this is about equality, freedom, and trusting citizens to defend themselves responsibly. They see constitutional carry as a way to affirm the trust between the government and the people, and to reinforce the idea that rights belong to everyone, regardless of background or income. They believe the law should empower, not restrict, responsible gun owners, and that education and personal responsibility are more effective than government mandates. Ultimately, it's a call to level the playing field for every American, ensuring that the right to self-defense is truly universal and not limited by unnecessary obstacles. Opponents, including law enforcement and public health experts, warn that permitless carry is a step backward for safety. They argue that permits provide crucial vetting, catching red flags and requiring safety training that reduces accidents and misuse. Without mandatory training, critics fear more accidental shootings and escalated conflicts in public spaces. Research from groups like RAND and Everytown links weaker gun laws to higher rates of gun violence, though supporters dispute these findings. Opponents worry that more guns in public will increase tension and fear, not security. They envision safer communities built on trust and conflict resolution, not more firearms. The core question, does more freedom mean more safety or more risk? permitless carry is reshaping the political landscape. For Republicans, it's a promise kept to gun rights supporters. For Democrats, it's a rallying point for gun safety advocates. The issue deepens partisan divides and dominates state and national campaigns. Economically, supporters claim gun-friendly laws boost sales and attract like-minded residents and businesses. Critics warn that increased gun violence, or even the perception of it, could hurt tourism, business investment, and public confidence. Major corporations may avoid states with looser gun laws, impacting jobs and growth. The true economic impact is uncertain, balancing direct gains from gun sales against potential costs from violence and lost opportunities. States must weigh these risks as they chart their course. Experts offer sharply different views on permitless carry. Legal scholars note that while the Supreme Court affirms gun rights, it also allows for reasonable regulations like permits. Public health researchers argue that robust permit systems reduce gun violence, acting as a critical safeguard. Personal defense trainers counter that true safety comes from voluntary training and responsible ownership, not government mandates. The debate is complex, rooted in law, data, and personal values. Each side sees a different path to safety and freedom. Understanding these perspectives is key to an informed debate. The future of gun policy depends on how we balance these competing visions. Wisconsin and New York illustrate America's deep divide on gun laws. Wisconsin's legislature is pushing to eliminate permits, prioritizing individual liberty and minimal oversight. The outcome hinges on a political standoff between Republican lawmakers and a Democratic governor. Meanwhile, New York has tightened restrictions, banning guns in many public places and requiring extensive training. The result is a patchwork crossing state lines can turn a legal act into a felony. Gun owners must navigate a confusing legal landscape, with rights and risks changing by the mile. This contrast reflects the nation's polarization. Some states expand gun rights, others double down on regulation. The debate is far from settled and the divide is only growing. As 7 more states consider permitless carry, America faces a defining choice. The movement is reshaping the balance between individual rights and collective safety. The debate is nuanced, involving law, data, and deeply personal beliefs. The experiences of these states will become the new evidence in the national conversation. Will permitless carry bring greater safety or more violence? The answer will shape the next chapter in America's story. The future of gun laws depends on informed, honest dialogue, not just political battles. Ultimately, it's up to the people to decide what kind of society we want to build. The choices we make now will define us for generations.